Hello and welcome. My name is Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind the Country Chic Cottage. Today I'm going to be engraving on tumblers with my xTool S1. So the xTool S1, it is possible to engrave a round object if you add both the riser base as well as the rotary attachment. So the rotary attachment, I'm using the RA2 Pro version. Now, there are different rotary attachments depending on which model of xTool laser that you have. So you need to figure out which model of xTool laser you have and purchase the right rotary tool. And then you will need the riser base to lift your laser up to have room for that rotary tool, as well as like these big, like 4-inch diameter tumblers. So you do need to actually have both of those things in order to do engraving on tumblers and other round objects. I'm going to concentrate on tumblers in this video. However, the RA2 Pro, I'm going to show you a variety of things that come with it, and it will do a variety of objects that are cylindrical, round, different sizes. There are tons of different things that you can do with this tool. So the first thing we're going to do is actually add the riser base to the xTool S1. Now the steps in this video would be similar no matter which xTool you had, but do be aware that I do have the xTool S1 and that's what I'm using in this video itself. The riser base itself is 4 pieces and you connect it in the corners with 4 screws. The instructions are very simple to assemble the riser base. Once it's assembled, the front and the back pieces fold up and then they fold down as well. So go ahead and fold those up to add to the xTool S1. Inside the xTool S1 machine itself, you'll remove all the screws around this bottom tray. Once those have been removed, the tray will lift out of the laser. Then add the riser base to the table and set your xTool on top. So the riser base is this portion, and if I push, you can see that front just pops right open and you can see inside of the laser. On top of that, the xTool S1 is sitting in location. Now we need to screw it into place. There are 3 screws on each side and you'll just tighten those into place. For safety reasons, you don't want to see any of the light in here while your laser is operating. Now there are laser safety glasses included with the riser base, so if you're doing a large project and you have this open, you can use those glasses. However, if you're doing a small project and want to close this, there are light blocking strips that you can add to this piece on both the front and the back to help control more of the light. With this open, you can see slots on the side of the riser base. So these are A, B, C, and D going from top to bottom. You're going to put the metal tray back in here, but it's going to depend on how big the piece you're using on the rotary base is as to which one you'll put it in. But you just slide it into place. I'm gonna put it in D in this case, which is the bottommost one. And you just line it up on both sides and press it into place. So now I'm going to engrave with both the chuck and the rollers in this video. With the chuck, you would do tumblers like these two, where there are 2 different diameters, and you could use it for other things as well. And with the rollers, I would do things that have a consistent diameter all the way down, like this water bottle. So with the chuck, you can do up to about 4 inches or 100 millimeters in diameter. With those rollers, you're gonna be about 7 3/4 inch or 198 millimeters in diameter. And that would be the maximum size that you could do. So now let's take a look at engraving some tumblers, and we're gonna set up that chuck first. So I'm gonna set up the chuck, do a couple of tumblers, and then I'm gonna show you how to do the same type of thing with the roller assembly. All of the processes are similar. It just depends on the tumbler that you're using, which one of the setups you're going to want to use with the rotary attachment itself. I'm using the RA2 Pro version. First of all, you can adjust one of the rods to different locations. There's the A, B, and C location. You just remove the screw on the bottom, and then you can push this along to the different locations. Put it into the slot on this side, add the screw to the bottom. The A location, which is where it is now, the 2 rollers are very close together. This is for a diameter between 3 and 50 millimeters. When I move this to the B location, the B location is 45 to 60 millimeters. And then when I move this to the C location, it's for anything greater than 60 millimeters. Now if you use inches, the A location would be like 2 inches and less. The B location would be a little over 2 1/4 to 2 inches. The C location would be anything over about 2 1/4 inches in diameter. So let's say that I'm going to use the C location. I have this in the C location. I have this side located into the appropriate slot. Then you would just flip the entire thing over and add a screw to the underside to hold that into place. The Pro comes with a ton of different accessories, and you would use these for different reasons. I am not going to use all of these in this video, but I'm going to quickly run through them. This piece is a support, and it can be used for irregular objects or objects that are too long for the rotary attachment. And then these accessories are sort of used in combination together. So you would use this and then combo them with a variety of these other pieces. These are for objects that are not round at the bottom. These are for objects that are round at the bottom. There are pieces for rings. There's even a tape measure included to measure the diameter of objects. And then this piece over here is for spheres. So when you want to engrave a sphere, this is what you would use. So this large piece here is basically sort of like a jaw chuck, where you can chuck those objects into place and hold them steady within the rotary tool. The user manual that comes with this does walk through how to install each of these and what they're used for. So if you ever need to use any of these, want to do some really odd objects in your xTool, this is what you would use. I am just going to do tumblers in this video. I would remove the screws on both of these bars. This one has a screw in the top here, and you'll need to remove that as well as the bracket on this side. Once you remove the 2 set screws from here, you can just pull this piece off. Then we're gonna add the chuck. So the first piece looks something like this, and you'll put it in the hole on this end of the rotary attachment. Then there's a hole in the bottom, and you can see the set screws on the piece we just put in there through this. And you're gonna use your screwdriver through there to tighten those set screws. Then you'll be adding the chuck attachment. So the belt on the chuck attachment will go around that piece you just added, and then the chuck attachment itself will screw into, there's 2 screw holes on top here. So just find those screw holes and tighten both of those down. Now you can use the chuck key to tighten and loosen the chuck itself. And the attachments that I showed you just a few minutes ago can be added to the chuck itself. So for instance, for this one, our goal would be for the chuck to expand to hold this into place. If we put these accessories on here and screw them in, we can get to that goal because this will extend these pieces on the chuck. And these are just attached to each arm with a few screws. Now with these jaw components added, I'm able to put my tumbler on here, and we can actually line the tumbler up with the components to get it fairly straight, and then just turn the chuck key to tighten everything up. You just want to make sure that it's sturdy on here. Then the attachment also comes with a level. So we could level this up some. You can level it up at the bottom or the top. I'm gonna level this close to up here because there's such a severe taper on this end. So I'm just going to get it as level as I can and then tighten this chuck key some more so nothing moves. And now my tumbler is on the rotary attachment. So that's one way you could add a tumbler to the rotary tool. The way you add it is going to depend on the size of the tumbler. So this type of tumbler you would put on here. Now, if your tumbler has a handle, you'll want to remove the handle, and a lot of those have like a bracket that attaches the handle. You would bend those brackets down because you wouldn't want the handle or the brackets to hit as this is rotating either the laser head or the bottom of the tool itself. So do be aware of that if you're going to do anything with a handle. I chose to do this one without a handle for this example, just so I could show you how to add it to a chuck attachment for these larger size tumblers. Now for these larger size tumblers, you might notice my tumbler is hanging way off down here. There is also a piece you can add to this side to help to hold this. So it adjusts with the screw at the top, and you can adjust it up and down. We can just put it right under that tumbler. And by moving this now, I can move the tumbler up and down. So then I can put this back on here And I would do this leveling while it's in the laser. I'm just doing this for example purposes. I can move the screw on this attachment up and down to affect the level of the tumbler. So this is helpful for supporting tumblers, especially with 2 different diameters, to support it down here at the bottom. The rotary attachment does need power in order to turn. So what you're going to do is you're going to use the cord that's specific for your laser. This white plug in the back of the rotary tool gets this white plug here. So we're just going to push that in. Then for the S1 towards the front of your machine, there is an area that it has a plug over it. You'll just remove that plug and you'll plug this end of the cord into that. This will supply power to your rotary tool. The other thing you can do is once everything is inside of the laser, turn the laser on, move the laser head over to where you can see the crosshairs on the tumbler, and then you can rotate the tumbler to make sure that it's straight. So everything is looking really good and straight there. I'm going to move the laser head just slightly where it just is at the very, very top edge of the tumbler. You'll also need to measure your tumbler. So you want to measure it from the top to the bottom for one measurement, and then we want to measure all the way around for the other measurement. I recommend measuring it all the way around at the widest point, so up at the top up here. And you can do this before you add it to the rotary tool, but you can also just sort of put your tape measure around while it's on the tool. The tool holds it still, and then you can get a good measurement for all the way around as well. Now I did find a video on the YouTube channel Lily Rose Craft Room that showed how to do like a test cut using some painter's tape, and I am going to link to that in the description below this video. If you are not confident in your measurements, or you want to do a test to make sure you got your measurements right, I would recommend watching that video. Just a note that I am using the xTool 2.0, which is in beta right now. So I'm going to upload, find the file that is on my computer, and click yes to scale it to fit on my canvas. Now, I do have this file for free below if you want to use it, and you can scale it down. The next thing I'm going to do is trace this image. So we're going to click trace and save. Then I'm going to click combine and unite. Now I can delete the original, and now we have something that is a file that can be used for this. Then I'm going to insert a rectangle, and I'm going to make it exactly the size that I just measured my tumbler. So we're going to draw the rectangle, unlock this, and make it the exact dimensions of the tumbler itself. Then I can start using this rose a variety of ways. So what I'm going to do is start copying and pasting it, resizing, rotating, and just filling this whole area with these rose designs. So I will continue to do that. Then we'll come back and set this up for engraving. So now I have the entire thing full of roses. So now let's pick everything, including that rectangle, and let's rotate it 90 degrees. The red cross on your screen represents where your laser head is. So we've already moved that to the top of our tumbler. So we're gonna move this just to the left of that crosshair. You also want to make sure it's down enough that it's not in this gray area. Then we're going to click the rectangle itself and click delete. We'll just remove that completely. Then pick all of the roses and do combine unite. This may take a few minutes, but it's worth it to get everything on one cut. Then click anywhere over on the canvas, and the first thing we're going to do is say we're using the rotary attachment. So that pulls up this screen here. We're using it with the chuck, and we're going to put the perimeter in that we measured. It's going to automatically calculate the diameter. Now we need to auto measure the distance. We've already located our laser head, so we're going to click auto measure. The laser will auto measure that, and you can see that my crosshair is back to where it is supposed to be. We want to make sure that the roses are to the left of that crosshair. This upper portion is not in any of the gray. And the next thing we're going to do is to click the roses, and we're going to tell it it's a process type of engrave. Then we'll go to our easy set panel, the settings. And what I'm going to try here is a power of 75. a speed of 304, one pass, 100 lines per centimeter, and I'm gonna leave it on a bi-directional engraving mode. Then we're gonna click close. The next thing we're gonna wanna do is to do framing. So I'm gonna click the framing button. Now you'll use the button on the front of your machine to frame your design. So I'm gonna click the button on the front of the machine. And if you'll watch the crosshairs, this is where my engraving will be. You can press the button again to get a better look. If you think you need to make adjustments, you can move the tumbler and press the button again and just keep framing until you decide that everything is going to be on the tumbler where you would like it. Then I'm going to go ahead and close my lid and vent my S1 out my window. Next, I'm going to click Framing Completed, and I'm going to click Process. This tumbler is going to take 40 minutes to engrave. So I'm going to go ahead and click Start. Then once the machine beeps, I'm going to press the button on the front of the machine to start the process. Once everything is complete, you can open the laser. Then we can move the laser head, rotate this until you can get the chuck key in, and loosen that up. Once it's loose, you can pull the tumbler off. Now you will need to clean this as it will be dirty, and you can see that on my hands. Then you can see after I've cleaned everything off, just how great that engraving looks on this tumbler. Once you remove the handle and bend the tabs down, you would add it to the xTool in the same manner, and you need to check and make sure that the tabs do not hit anywhere, so be sure to rotate it all the way around to check that. Then once this is done, you can see the gorgeous engraving on this tumbler. Now these settings might have been a little bit deep for this tumbler. It is sort of etched, but I'll go ahead and clean it up and we can take a closer look at it. If you have a tumbler that's straight, you can opt out of using that whole chuck assembly and just put it in with the rollers, and then add the tumbler to the top. The same thing will apply where you need to make sure that everything is straight within the xTool by adding the tumbler and rotating it around, and then you would make something in the exact same manner. Let's take an up close and personal look at some of the results. So this is the first one I made just to show that you could do a full wrap. The settings worked out perfectly for this tumbler. I did tweak the settings a little bit for like this one. The settings work overall that I mentioned in the video. However, you might need to decrease or increase those a little bit depending on the coating type that you get. But this one overall looks amazing. You may notice that, say at the bottom, the roses are a little scrunched because this diameter is not as big as this one, and we based everything off this diameter. So you may notice that. However, for most designs, that won't be an issue. If you have a design that matters on, you might want to take that into account. This is the second one I did, and this again used that chuck attachment because it has varying diameters. It did etch into the metal a little bit, like I can see lines in the metal. Overall, those don't bother me, but I might play with the settings a little bit to get a little bit of a cleaner etch where it just is removing that top layer of paint. So you can see how that looks on there. And for this one, I just used a font. So I just put a font within the xTool creative space, and it pulls the fonts right off my computer, so it's very easy to do. And this final one is the one that I removed the chuck attachment completely because this is a consistent diameter all the way down. So you don't have to have that chuck if you don't want to use it. I used an SVG for this one, and I will have it for free in the description below this video. And I just ungrouped it and moved it around on the canvas to get this long design. You could leave it as a square if you would like, but I liked the long design for this particular water bottle. For this one, I probably could turn my settings up just a little bit and removed a little bit more actually. So you might have to play with each version of the tumbler, water bottle, what have you, because it is going to depend on the coating on it and how thick it is, what the settings are going to be. But the settings I mentioned in this video are a great starting point. So now you've seen me do several tumblers and you saw the results that I was able to get. Like I said, you probably have to play with your settings a little bit. What I've mentioned in this video is a good starting point. However, the coating thicknesses on these tumblers, I found, like, I did 3 different brands just to kind of test and play around, and it definitely varies depending on the brand that you are going to engrave. So you might have to play around with it a little bit. So maybe when like you purchase a tumbler for the first time, you might want to purchase one extra until you get used to it and try some engraving on it. The settings were absolutely perfect for this version of the tumbler. It was probably a little deep for this version, and then for this version it might have been even a little shallow, so I probably could have went a little bit deeper. So I kind of got 3 different results on 3 different brands. You might want to take that into account when you're thinking about the settings you're going to use and when you're purchasing your tumbler blanks to actually engrave and getting one extra just in case you mess one up. Otherwise, I am in love with being able to engrave my own tumblers, cylindrical objects, spheres, so I can think of tons of different things that I can make with this rotary attachment and my xTool S1. So I am very excited about the possibilities of this attachment, and you all have been asking for this. You have been asking how to engrave round objects, and this rotary attachment and an xTool is your best bet. Now again, you can get a rotary attachment. I used the S1 in this video. However, any of the xTool lasers that you want to purchase, you can get a rotary attachment to go with those. Remember, you will need the riser base as well. Now the riser base is useful for other things as well, so don't think that you're only going to be using your riser base for this rotary attachment. I have more videos planned on that as well. So now if you want to see past videos, I have a video on the S1 itself, and I also have a video on the xTool screen printer, which you can use with the S1 as well. And I will link to both of those videos in the description below this one. So if you want to learn more about xTool and the S1, I would head to those videos, check those out, and you might just decide that the xTool S1 is for you. If not, and you have another xTool, be sure to add a rotary attachment and a riser base to your craft room, because I know you're gonna love engraving on tumblers. So thank y'all so much for joining me today. If you liked this video and it helped you, give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions, drop down in the comment section, ask away. And if you haven't already, head on over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We have videos just like this one every single week, and trust me, you don't wanna miss any of those. So thank y'all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.